Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, Luann Nigara. Luann has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. Luann brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. I'm pretty sure you're going to love today's show. I have Kandi Scott with me. She is the principal of Mood Design Build based in Chicago. And she really hits it out of the park today with practical advice. Advice on launching, on growing, and sustaining an interior design business. She has 15 years of experience, which includes both residential and commercial design. She graduated from Meredith College in Raleigh, North Carolina with a BS in interior design. And you're going to hear her describe how her early experience working with a large developer and also with large corporate clients, how outfitting high-rise condominiums, lobbies, club rooms, and model show homes all contributed to some of the principles and the lessons that she brings to her own business. And this business, Mood Design Build, she founded in 2014. She continues to work with residential clients and small business owners with their homes, their offices, and also small-scale commercial interiors. So it's a fun conversation, and she's a pretty smart lady, so I think you're going to like it. Before we break and before I tell you a little bit about our sponsor, I just want to remind you that I'll be moderating a panel at Fall Design Week at America's Mart in Atlanta. This is going to happen on September 26, 2017. It's just a couple of weeks away. The panel discussion is called Design in Tech, and the panelists are Sarah Danielli, the CEO of My Doma Studio, Sandra Funk, the principal of House of Funk in New York and New Jersey, and my buddy Mark McDonough, the editor and the all things brilliant behind Tastefully Inspired. And I'm going to talk to these guys and ask them what are the new technology and tools that they are suggesting that they are using and why they think and how they think they can help us in our businesses and what results we can expect by using and applying these different technologies in our business, okay? So you know me, I'm going to grill them all the way down to get to the good stuff. So please come out to Atlanta and join us there. And if you do, please make sure that you introduce yourself to me either before or after the event, okay? Promise, promise. All righty. Now sit back there just one more minute while I tell you about our sponsor, and I will be right back with Kandi Scott. My great thanks to My Doma Studio, our podcast sponsor. What is My Doma Studio? Well, you know, as busy interior designers, that running your own design firm isn't just about designing. That's what we talk about here all the time, right? There's managing contracts, clients, payments, products, and a million other things that you have to have locked down. It is challenging, but you must run your firm efficiently so you can do the fun, creative things you enjoy so much. And that's where My Doma Studio comes in. I'd like to invite you to try My Doma Studio today. Go to mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business. Designers around the world are using My Doma Studio. What about you? Let My Doma Studio help you organize the business side and spend more time on the designing side of your firm. I'd also like to share with you that Vin, Bill, and myself are so impressed with My Doma Studio that we have invested in this company. So see for yourself what My Doma Studio can do for your interior design business. And if you visit using the link mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business, you will receive a special offer just for you as listeners of the podcast. Hi, Kandi. Thank you so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, Luann. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So here's the thing. You have lots of different areas that once I was researching your company that I was like, I'm like a kid in a candy shop here. I'm not sure which one to take. But a couple of the areas that I'd like to start with are your background. Your own firm, Mood Design Build, is 3 years. in existence, but you come with, 15, 16 years of experience, as I described in the introduction, in
Right.
Residential and commercial design, with a heavy influence, it looks like to me, on working for commercial design. And I just thought, let's take a little bit and talk about that, because we haven't had a lot of commercial designers on the show, and it is a very different sort of design. The goals are different, the timelines are different, and the criteria are different. And so since you have such valuable experience there, I thought we'd pick that apart a little. Is that okay with you?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So tell us a little bit then. So you spent time, I read, that working for large developers, outfitting high-rise condos, their lobbies, their clubhouses, and their amenity areas. I happen to have a lot of experience in this myself. I have 2 very large accounts here in New Jersey where we have been the window treatment person for them on these parts of their projects. But tell us a little bit about, you came out of design school and got a job right into this field. Is that the case?
Yeah, well, not exactly. So from college, I actually started to work for independent residential clients. I put myself through school, and just as extra money, I would do all sorts of projects for clients, and then that transitioned into when I moved from North Carolina, which is where I went to school, up to Chicago, and I started working for just a local furniture store in Chicago. And it kind of got my feet wet in terms of meeting new people. And it was, I was dealing with the general public, and I was also getting a lot of knowledge in terms of furniture and how furniture was manufactured and made, and all of the different quality components to furniture. And I met somebody while I was working for that company who was another interior designer, and he outfitted all of these high rises that were going up in Chicago at the time in the mid 2000s. We had, if you remember, there was the market was extremely active at that point, and then
it was a great time to be in business.
Exactly, and then it collapsed right before our eyes, literally overnight. But leading up to that point, I decided to sort of join forces with this firm in Chicago who was doing all of this work with these developers. And so when you refer to commercial, it is commercial to the extent that it's, it's not like independent residential projects. But it is multifamily commercial in that it's, it was condo buildings and apartment buildings. And we were doing not only the common spaces, but also the model home merchandising.
Right. And I also am hearing, like, when you just said it's commercial, but it's not exactly. And I know that to be true, because even in a commercial setting with a high-rise building, whether it be condos or apartments or whatever, that's one of the reasons why I mentioned that Window Works has been very involved in this end of the business for all the years that we're in business, because all of these big buildings do have a commercial designer that is responsible for everything, from picking the hallway lighting to the hallway carpeting to the knobs and everything. But I find that as much as they will spec out what happens, like, okay, we need 4,000 mini blinds for all the apartments, the designers, well, at least in my case, I've earned a lot of business, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars of window treatment business for 2 real estate property companies in New Jersey, because they say to these bigger commercial firms, okay, you can specify the fabrics, you can specify what the style of the draperies are going to be for the model, for the clubhouse, for the exercise and amenity areas, and for the lobby, but I'm having them made by my local people here, because these have to be residential quality now, right? You can't make them 6 months in advance and just have them show up 4 inches too short because the building, was supposed to be XYZ and a rafter couldn't be moved, and now the length is different, right? So it's funny, because even in a commercial space like that, I have found the most beautiful buildings, and the 2 companies that I work for here, Roseland Property is the number 1 company that we work for here, Mack Cali division. They have won so many awards for their residential, mixed use properties because that the attention to detail that comes at that level, all the touch points that the whole world is going to see, So it's an interesting field to be in. And I know that it takes different criteria. So that was a great learning experience. And it's funny too, Kandi, is I am searching my brain and I can't think of which guest, but recently said on the podcast that they felt that every single designer should spend time working for a store at some point, just to learn, like what you described, the learning of how the furniture industry works and the back end of it, and learning customer service. It's a whole different animal in that regard, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest component that you're describing is the customer service. It's people get pretty darned emotional about their particularly residential people.
Right.
And it's such a personal space, and people care so much about their spaces. Unless they don't at all.
Right. It's one or the other.
It really is. Right. So, and then it's also learning, like, tracking merchandise and, exactly how it all works from the time that the order is placed to the process in which it is manufactured, to how it works when it ships out, to how it works when it comes to the receiving warehouse and then finally out to the client. And if there's any damage in between, that's something I learned working for that company, that furniture showroom, just how susceptible to damage furniture is, and that's one of the most frustrating components, I believe, of the industry, is just getting furniture in one piece,
A to B, right?
Yes, without any damage whatsoever. Because, if a client gets a desk or a chair and there's one little tiny nick on it, it's going back,
Right. Well, what I love about what you're describing is that if you're a newer interior designer and you have started your own firm and you like that experience level that you just described there, that's a perspective that you would not have. Now, once you've been through it and you've had the wonderful, happenstance of having 6 or 7 or 8 clients in a pipeline, and you've completed 6 or 7 or 8 projects, and how much damage has occurred, you start to learn the lesson. But the thing is, I can just imagine when you then go out into the world in your own firm, knowing that system, like you just said, from how it gets manufactured all the way to the tracking, all the way to the status checking, all the way to the delivery and everything else. How much more information when you go to do your first residential client and you can say, prepare them, not in this doomsday way, but you happen to know that furniture 3 out of 5 times isn't coming in perfect. I don't want you to go off the deep end. I know how to take care of it. Instead of the designer, I can't tell you how many times I've been on site with a newer, inexperienced designer, and there's something wrong on a project, and they're standing there, upset themselves. Let's be serious. It's upsetting. But almost peacocking for the client. This is not acceptable. And it's like, sweetie, like, furniture gets delivered wrong or damaged every day. This is acceptable, and you just have to figure out the solution for the problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in standing there and acting like this never should happen,
Right.
So I love that information.
Isn't that funny?
I love that, because it just brings you with a level of expertise, whether you are executing your very first project or your 50th project, you come in with some expertise. And I also like it from the standpoint of being a new designer and running that project and doing the statuses and talking with the vendors, because when you come from the experience of being on the inside of it, on the manufacturing and on, like you said, the furniture sales side of it, they're not going to tell you stuff that's not true. They're not going to say, oh, well, it takes this much time. It's like, no, it doesn't. Just look on the computer and find out. You can find out where my piece is. And no, things don't get lost and get sent to wrong warehouses. That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So, not with that kind of regularity. But the point is, I love the experience aspect of it. And even if you spend, a year working with a well-known or a quality furniture company, that sounds like it's a good thing to do, right, Kandi?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I absolutely. I think it's just important to learn all of these different segments of the business. Now, something that I didn't do that I sort of wish that I had.
Hmm.
I was um, somewhat foolish. You're sort of like describing the process that I went through. I graduated from college and I was arrogant enough to think, oh, I can start a business.
Right.
And I actually did for about 2 to 3 years where I was just a freelance designer taking on projects, but I was taking on projects that were actually quite involved, like basement remodels and bathroom remodels and it wasn't just, decorating projects. These were like construction projects. And boy, did I ever make a ton of mistakes. And I learned and they were expensive mistakes.
Yes.
So by the time I joined forces with this other design firm in Chicago, I'd actually learned quite a bit just from falling down and getting back up
Mm.
again. And I had this idea that, oh, it's glamorous and it's fun. Well, it's not at all. Like when things go wrong and the clients are yelling at you, and it turns unfun very
Right.
quickly.
And then it's real times. It's put your big girl panties on.
Got to put them on,
That's
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
It's a truth. It's a problem solving. I just feel like every day it's a problem solving, matrix, metrics, whatever the metrics would be the word. It's like, okay, just put all
Yeah.
the problems on the plate. Let's figure them all out.
Yeah,
So,
and I think you're really highlighting too, like in my practice now, it's explaining to the clients that these problems are going to arise. Like
right.
this is a very um and I believe in any industry, really. There's like
Yes.
no perfect industry, but in any industry, and particularly in design, build with so many moving parts, with so many people involved, that it's a process of solution finding all day long.
Right. Exactly. And the thing about it is it's, as I said a moment ago, it's not about being, Debbie Doomsday. It's not about
Yeah.
painting a negative picture for the client, but it's about exactly that. Just saying, you've hired me to usher you through this process and to handle the problems and the crisis that will inevitably come up. And
Yeah.
another guest on the show just said, who is it that said, put your, there's human. Oh, Judith Neary says you have humans involved. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like it's whether it's the carpenter, it's the architect, it's me as the person doing something, or it's the tiler. There's humans involved. And so it's about, I feel the potential, the conversation about problems is the opportunity is to express to your client how there's going to be problems, but I'm the one that's going to handle them for you, as opposed to
Yeah.
you don't hire me because there won't be problems, because by hiring me, there are not problems. That's an unrealistic conversation. It's an unrealistic
Expectation. Yeah.
expectation, right? And the
Yeah.
other is a great expectation and a great way to frame how valuable your services as a designer are, is to say, look, stuff's going to happen. I'm going to
Yeah.
take care of it. That's my role. And
Yeah.
then on the other side of it is not to be like, it generally happens with newer designers where when a problem happens, they feel like in order to express to the client that they are very involved and they are very
On top of it.
on top of it, that they have the crazy show. And I just like, I'll stand there in the corner and go, no, we're not doing a crazy show here. Like I'm not,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
I actually had a designer one time, this was many years ago. It was the MO. And, about the third or fourth time over a 2 or 3 year period that when there was a problem on an install that this designer had her crazy show in front of the client, I finally just said to her after the project, after we were out of the client's house, I said, I'm done. I'm not doing this with you anymore. And she just like looked at me. I said, no. You see, because you've watched me clean up every single thing, no matter what it's been, whether it's been my mistake, your mistake, you've changed something with the carpentry and didn't tell me. I said, and this craziness of grandstanding in front of your client doesn't work for me. I'm on your team. And if you don't know that I have your back, well, it's just I want my client. I'm not into drama. Not happening. And so we didn't do business with her for a while. And then she called me back like 3 years later, like, can I please come back? I'm like, of course you can. So, it's counterproductive. It does not instill confidence. Right. Yeah. So I love that you learn those things.
And to that point, I think, something that I've recognized over the years, because I think, at some point in our careers, we go to that place of drama. I mean, let's face it, most people live in drama. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just the reality of human beings. Mm-hmm. And it takes a good deal of consciousness to get out of that drama.
Agreed.
And so like I learned the hard way with that too. And it's sort of like this misperception that if I come to the table to my vendors with drama, like I've got this and I'm advocating for you. And it's like this, like you said, like a grandstand show. It's like silly and ridiculous, and it doesn't instill confidence.
No, it doesn't.
But the thing that I've learned that is very, very effective in my practice now is recognizing, and actually it comes from the work that I have done in social emotional intelligence. I mean, I've actually invested in myself that way to be able to build stronger relationships with people, whether they're my employees, my clients, my vendors, my contractors. In that, how do I relate to people? Where's the place that I can relate to them, and gain this sense of mutuality where there's not this pissing contest
right.
of blaming and, oh, it's her fault, no, it's his fault, and it's just like, no, we're all in this together,
right?
And what I've come to realize is that it's really about recognizing the fact that we're all scared. Like we're all just walking around scared.
You're right, Kandi. You're exactly right, because I call it the blame game. The blame game starts when you, as the person in your head, are just as you just said. You're afraid that something's going to unravel. You're afraid that something's going to cost money. You're afraid that the client is going to be upset. And so instead of, taking a breath and figuring a way and starting to explore solutions, you just start throwing daggers, and where's the blame game going, right?
And it's a downward spiral.
It is. And that's pretty, I like that you've done that. You've invested in social emotional intelligence training, or what is it, courses that you've taken or reading and so forth. That's excellent. Yeah. It's so valuable in knowing how. I mean, look, it all starts with a personal relationship, and it all starts with personal conduct. That's really what, to me, it comes down to. And I agree with you, Kandi. I don't mean to express to anybody listening that you're not going to feel frustrated. You're not going to feel angry. You're not going to be disappointed in a vendor or a client or in yourself. But it's locking it down. You know what I mean? And it's, if you got to scream at the wall, scream at the wall. But you don't scream at live human beings if you can help it. And, and the thing is, we've all done it. And the reason why I think most of us that have moved through it is because having done it, you know how counterproductive it is. Or having had it done to you, you know that at the end of all of that craziness, guess what? We still have the problem here. Awesome. Now let's start working it out.
And I think too, this is the business. Like, we're in a very emotional business, and it is about cultivating these good feelings in spaces, and the whole process leading up to that. But I have found that with my clients, if I just meet them where they are, like for instance, even today, I'm going to meet one of my clients after we get off the phone here, who is very frustrated that his project is taking an awfully long time. And granted, he wanted all custom goods, and there's this, things are coming over from overseas, and they're being held up in customs. And, it's just like problems that are out of our control. Right. The only thing that he really wants is to know that I hear him, and that I'm on it, and that I'm also with him in his frustration and his fear. And that's it, Right. So it's like, I meet him there. I say, Bob, I understand you're frustrated. Yeah, I would be too. I get it. I
Right.
totally get it. And right then and there, it just it neutralizes the situation when he knows that I see him and I hear him. And
That's
that's
exactly it. Because
yeah.
people want to be heard. And I often say the same thing. I want you just said that you see him. He wants to know that you see him and what he's going through, and that you're not just busy and like, oh, well, whatever. It'll come in when it comes in. And in his rational, intelligent part of his mind, he knows darn well that there isn't anything you can do if it's caught up in customs, but it's not feeling seen and heard. And you're right about that, Kandi. I like that. And it is just taking a moment to, wind it down and have a conversation. And the thing is, what I find is younger professionals, younger business owners, the mistake that they'll make is exactly the opposite of what you're saying. Instead of just acknowledging the problem and acknowledging that, yes, this is incredibly frustrating, is they pretend that it's not a big deal or pretend that it's not happening. Oh, well, I didn't say it was going to be 3 weeks. I said it was going to be 5. And it's like, you know what? Just say what, like you said, the guy just wants to know, like, doesn't this stink that my stuff's caught on a boat from China?
Yes, totally. And really, like, what you're describing is just a defensive posture, and it's like it's stepping away from that defensive list. Like, nobody is in trouble here, nobody is dying, nobody is gonna, this is all just like made up stuff in our heads about about worst case scenario.
Right. And what it does is it doesn't diffuse the tension. It feeds the tension, because people are smart. If you try and minimize something that is a pain point for them, and you try and, fluff it away, and pretend it's really not a big deal, it just makes it more of a big deal, because now they're actually doubly frustrated. They're frustrated by the fact of whatever it is that's happening, but they're extra frustrated because they feel like you don't, like you said, hear and see them. So I had the exact same thing happen at Apple last night. And I swear to God, I'm so tempted to go on an Apple rant right now, but I won't, because it's not the proper forum. But it is actually exactly what happened. I came in with a problem, and it was I can never say that word.
Exacerbated.
Thank you.
Exacerbated.
It's exacerbated by the way this young girl who has never had a business and probably never had a podcast that she had to record 4 episodes the next day with a computer that wasn't working.
Yeah.
And it's exactly, I'm making a joke. The rant could be an hour, honest to God. But the point is that it was poorly handled, and it was neither way, handled good or bad, was going to get my computer fixed last night. But honestly, poorly handled is crazy. And I won't go back there now. I went to Best Buy and I will not go back there. It's like, okay, you know what? Forget it. I'm done with that. So, but anyway, okay. So I love all that advice.
Clients,
that's
right?
exactly right.
That's how we lose clients.
Exactly right. I, of course, will always buy Apple product, and they'll ultimately get my money, but I will always buy it through Best Buy now.
Right.
So, anyway, all right. So I love all of that. Thank you. That's a little tidbit of trail of information that I didn't expect to get down, but I love it because it's great advice. It's great advice for every level of our career, but particularly starting out, to not get caught up in the drama and to understand that you're feeling the feeling of wanting to, out of your own fear, starting there, and then coupled by the fear of your client that the problem isn't going to be resolved. And if you just take a breath, relax, and focus on solutions with everybody and go for a win-win, you will cut the learning curve that a lot of us had to learn the hard way. So I love it. Now, let's talk about your business a little bit. You have your own firm now, Mood Design Build, in Chicago area, Oak Park, Illinois. And you have, I thought we would talk about this. You have 4 services listed on your website: design and build, staging and styling, furnish and decorate, exteriors and landscaping. Now, clearly this is full service, from idea all the way to putting the the impatiens in the garden afterwards, right?
Yeah.
But my question when I saw that, and of course I've had designers over the last year and a half that I've spoken to that have had extensive, layers of service like this. But for some reason today, Kandi, when I looked at it on your website, I thought, I wonder which phase she's finding the most profitable. And so talk to us a little bit about these different things, and if you were to say, look, I do them all because maybe you do them all because you enjoy them, or you do them all because you feel like you need to offer other services, but is there one phase that is the most profitable for you?
Well, it's a great question, Luann. I absolutely design is the most popular. So the consulting fees are almost 100% profit,
Okay.
particularly if I'm the one that's executing. Now, I do have a staff of 4 designers as well.
Okay.
So it's not pure profit, from a business perspective, because I have to pay my staff.
Sure.
But it's easier in the sense that there's nothing to deliver other than drawings, ideas, selections, all of the phases of design.
Right.
So the consulting fees, and it's actually something that I am consciously moving more towards now. For some reason, I have had a block against the high fees, that people wouldn't pay, 200 plus an hour for my time. And I think that's false. They will, particularly with my experience, and it's just something that I need to implement into my business on a much more regular basis.
You haven't pushed through it quite yet. You're struggling with that now.
Yeah. So I have been historically, I've been addressing my business from a project perspective. In other words, a client comes to me and says, "Hey, I got a kitchen that I want redone," and I'll price out design plus build on the kitchen, and so it's kind of like an all-inclusive package deal, so to speak. And I think people, they really like that. They appreciate that. That feels safer, that, oh, I know how much this project is going to cost me.
Right.
There's no like open-ended. Now what I'm doing, though, which I'm finding a lot of success with, is breaking it up into 2 phases. We have a design phase and we have a build phase.
Okay.
And in that design phase is really our planning phase. That's where we get everything sort of down on paper. We have the drawings, we have the meetings, we've got all of our selections, and we know what we're doing. Without, and I mean, of course, there's always changes that are made in the process of the build out, but we have like a 95% good idea of what we're going to do on this project, and it's all priced out. We've got multiple bids, and we feel confident about how this project is going to be executed.
And then you're billing for that at that moment. You're saying, here's your design phase. It includes, and you're including the estimates from the sources. But it's like, for instance, are you expressing to me that once you have completed that phase and you have collected your fee for that phase, the client could possibly not, something could happen, whatever could happen. A parent has to move into their house, and now they could say, actually, we're not going to go to the build phase. We're going to put it off for 6 months. And it's a standing project, right? And you've been paid, and that's that. It's not like you're in the middle of it, both sides being all part of the same fee, and now they have a crisis or whatever happens, and now you're like protracted out on this thing, and you haven't been able to close it out.
Exactly.
Like
so it sort of like creates that safety there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you've been moving into that phase more. You've been moving into that model more.
Yes, absolutely. And it has worked out. And how I do it is, more specifically, is I break it out into hourly packages. So like if somebody, like for instance, let's say it's $100,000 kitchen. I would estimate that to be roughly $10,000 in fees. Like it's roughly 10% of the project.
Okay.
And if somebody isn't comfortable with agreeing to that, then I'll say, we could do it in 20-hour increments. So you pay me for the first 20 hours. We see how it goes. And sometimes, it works out really well with new clients who don't really know what to expect, and they don't know if you're going to come to the table, and if you're a new designer, I think that's a really good way to go about it as well, because you don't have a portfolio of projects that you can show and say, look, this is my expertise. This is something that I can do for you, and instill that sort of confidence with clients. So with our newer clients who haven't worked with us before, they didn't come through a referral, or they're, whatever,
Gun
for
shy
whatever
for whatever reason,
reason, yeah, then we'll just break it up into, and with the larger projects, we break it up into 20-hour increments. With the smaller projects, it's, we go as low as 5-hour increments. And oftentimes they just keep buying in, once
Right.
they have some experience with you, they're okay, let's do another 5 hours. Some clients I've had for 2 or 3 years now that I just bill them monthly. It's sort of
Okay.
like I'm a somebody on their
Payroll.
team. Yeah, exactly. So
Let me ask you a couple
that's
of questions
awesome.
about that, though, just in
Yeah.
the specifics of it. So it seems to me, and I can see why a particular client would maybe opt to go that way and then continue that way. Like you said, it's just they just rather just always know it's going to be 20 hours a month, whatever it is. But in your mind, in setting it up, I feel like, and I want to know how you handle it, because it seems like to me, if I were to consider setting that up, I would feel like I don't ever want to be in a position where a client says to me, at the end of 20 hours, the first, the second, or third run, well, what did you really do and what value did I get? So if you look at a project, for instance, Kandi, you mentioned a $100,000 kitchen should have approximately a $10,000 design fee for your model, okay? But somebody says, I want 20 hours. If it's $200 an hour, what's that? Oh my God, I'm the worst at math. So that's what, is that, I don't know, is that 1,000? I have no idea.
2,000. Yeah, 20 hours at 20 hours at 200. What is that? That's 4,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Here we are. We just had a big
Yeah.
fight.
I got my calculator out.
I know. It's so funny. And if almost every designer I talked to wasn't as dense as I am with this, I would have to edit this stuff out. But I'm going two times 2 is 4. Somehow it's be 4. Is it 4,000? Is it 40,000? I don't know what the hell it is. Okay. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm the worst with numbers. My husband looks at me all the time like, how can you be so brilliant and so dumb at the same time? I'm like, it's just my skill. Okay. So that's $4,000. So the question I'm asking is, here's the question. In your mind, do you generally, if you have a client that says, I'd rather do the 20-hour, do you automatically click off in your mind, okay, of a $10,000 design fee for this $100,000 kitchen, the first $4,000 I would normally do this. So you can turn around and say to a client, that's terrific. And the first 20 hours, I will generally meet these project points or some kind of bar that you can say, this is what it's going to get you. So that, because what I would worry is that somebody, because of course the client that opts for this is either, like we said, unfamiliar with the interior design process, scared about the design process. So I would worry that a client would say, okay, let's take the 20 hours. And then at the end of the 20 hours go, well, wait a second. We just figured out cabinets, but that's it. We didn't figure out appliance, and have an unrealistic expectation of what gets accomplished in 20. So do you have it broken down where if somebody does that, you can say, great, that's awesome. This is what I expect that we'll accomplish on this design in 20 hours, just so you're clear. Is that you do have that?
Well, no, I don't actually, and I think that's a terrific suggestion, Luann. I sort of have it, I have it in my mind. It's like after doing it for so many years, it's like, I don't know, it's sort of like this unconscious competence.
So you know what it is, but you just are, so you kind of know what it is, but you're just noticing that you haven't taken the time to express what that would be.
Articulate it, exactly.
Okay. And I have to just say, as a consumer who's not a designer, I would love that added thing. I would like to know that if I
what
really
are we
was
doing in 20 hours?
Well, because if my choice is $10,000 or $4,000, I want to know what I'm getting for I don't want to know to the the thing, but I want to know where am I going to get left off on. Otherwise, it's like well, am I just going to end up with the whole $10,000 anyway? In which case, your process works better, and I should just bite the bullet, or yada yada,
Yeah, and I and what you're talking about is those types of people who are more analytical.
Yes,
and they want to know like the details and the step-by-step process and the plan. They want to know the plan.
I do. I want to know where we're going, so my thing is every single thing I do, it's like I want to know the whole thing, and then I can make my decision on what I want or don't want or whatever. But I don't want to like what I just said. I don't want to buy 4,000 if I'm going to buy 10 anyway. anyway. Just know I'm going to buy 10 anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Or there's a possibility at 4,000 that I might say, because there are some people, look, full luxury design build, you're going to do the process for the person from beginning to end. And that's the ideal for many designers, and that's the goal. But there are a lot of people out there that, like, I'm thinking about myself. I have 30 years in the business. It's not necessarily as an interior designer, but like, I didn't spend them all sitting at, an accounting table either. Clearly, we just, expressed that, So, but I have been in the industry long enough to know about, and I've designed my own kitchens and so forth like that. So the thing is, I could see somebody like me, the combination of analytical and a certain amount of expertise in it, being like, you know what, 4,000 of your fee, if it includes these critical things like measuring and making sure the appliances fit and the quantity of tile I'm going to need, I could probably go on to finishes and selections and GCing myself. But if I don't know that, when you tell me, okay, let's do 20 hours, I might be like, oh, great. I really thought I was going to get further along than this. I'm still buying the rest of the hours. That's all I'm saying. So, okay. All right. Yeah. So, but you're finding that dividing it up from the design consultation separately from the build process has been good for you. And I have to say, Corey Klassen ascribes to that. He has, I think he calls it the design phase, the execution phase, and the admin phase. And he prices each phase accordingly to the size of the project and what he expects it to be. And whether he presents all at once or he presents whatever, but in coming up with his matrix for what it's going to charge, he analyzes what each of these phases are going to be. Okay.
Well, that's interesting that it's execution and admin, because in my build phase, I'm assuming what he's talking about with admin is like the purchasing and the project management and just like making sure, like the spreadsheet, cost analysis and all that.
Collecting the dollar bills too.
Right, exactly. Right. Sending the invoices and all of that is part of it too. Yeah. It's absolutely essential to a well-organized and well-executed project.
Well, it's the truth, because if you don't allow for that time and you haven't charged for it, what are you doing? It's like, you're spending 8 hours every 2 weeks doing it and you're not getting paid that day. Like, hello, And so, okay. So that's very interesting. Okay. So that is turning out to be a profitable area for you. It sounds like, especially the more you break it down and get finite on it.
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And then as far as
tracking is like so important. Yes. I mean, this is something that, like, as a designer, as a creative, and I think creatives and designers, I mean, this is not breaking news. We're not very good business people. And in order to overcome that and to develop the skills for being a good business person, it's all about tracking. So it's like, how much time are you spending on this project? How much, like down to the mileage, it's you've got to get super detailed in order to get the data, in which to be compensated fairly.
And did you come to that, Kandi, because you had an understanding of it, maybe coming from the commercial where it is much more analyzed and so forth, or did you come to it because it's innate to you, or did you come to it because you learned the hard way after not doing it?
Yeah, Luann, it's called the School of Hard Knocks. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
They offer graduate degrees. I have one.
That's well, look, experience is the best teacher. And that's the whole reason for the podcast, is to shorten the learning curve for all of your peers out there that maybe don't have, 20 years, 18 years experience like you do. And just really, we try and impress upon everyone, my thing is, if you're doing it for 10 years and you're not profitable, then you're missing a whole segment of your business. You're doing something wrong. And if you are just starting out and you want to know how to start out profitably and miss that graduate degree in the School of Hard Knocks, then listen, right? So, and so that's the thing. So I don't begrudge anybody that learned it the hard way, but I begrudge people that hear the lessons and then say, oh, I don't need to do it. It's like over and over, successful designers like yourself have expressed the absolute value of exactly what you're saying, analyzing and tracking exactly how long it does take you or your staff to do something. The guessing is not the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's tedious though, because it's counterproductive to our brains. I mean, we just want to do it, right? We just want to do it all day for 60 hours. And at the end of it, I know how I am. I get down rabbit holes with the podcast all the time. I'm like, hello, not profit making here. Come on back up. Come on back up. Go do, because you enjoy it. You know, you guys are enjoying the design phase and the sourcing and everything, but you do have to get it to a point whether it's understanding of keeping a library in any of the places that you could keep a library of your go-to companies that you can rely on for furniture sourcing or fabric sourcing or lighting sourcing, so that you're not starting from scratch every time, right?
Yeah, totally. There's this systematizing is what it's all about, and that's not to say that you get a system and it stays the same till the end of time. It's a constant refinement, but it's finding something that really works for you. And I firmly believe that we all have our own way of doing things. We have to find our own sort of rhythms and what works for us. And there is a learning curve and a process in that. But to be as conscious about it as possible. And really the tools of that is first and foremost tracking.
Right.
Period. And whether it's like if you're selling, I mean, principal designers are salespeople first and foremost. And you know, I do dials, conversations, meetings. I track all of that because that is like the data that I need to know that my business is going to be sustainable in 3 to 6 months. If I'm not doing my dials in January, then you better believe that I'm not going to have business in March and April and May, you know?
Exactly right. It's for me, the project curve is so much shorter, right? So I'm not looking for a lead that I call in January that will be a 4-month project. But the analogy you say you do your dials is, for me, it's every Friday. I literally every single Friday will go through every single sales consultation that I've been on for the last 3 weeks. And I just, when's the last time I called them? When's the last time I emailed them? When's the last time I did this? And I go through and push it through. And it's you have to have a system for that stuff, because if it's for me, what I do is I look at my calendar for the next week, and I do this whether my calendar is full or it's empty. But the simple fact is if I don't know if it's full or empty, that's a problem. So that's like you guys not knowing if your pipeline is, full or empty. And secondly, I know whether I have appointments or not. I have no potential for more appointments if I don't revive them and pull them out of the woodwork again. And every Friday, hi, how are you? What's going on? Because again, the for me with my retail client, it's a much shorter thing. It's 1-2 visits. It's a sale. We're done. So I can do it every Friday. Whereas you guys are on a bigger curve, a longer contact curve. So tell us a little bit about that, your dial in January. I like that. I never heard that before. So, but I understand the concept. Obviously it's the same, but the thing is, what do you do? Do you go back through projects that maybe you presented and they didn't close, and do you nudge them? Like where do you cull and where do you go for trying to fill that pipeline?
Well, first and foremost, it's spheres of influence. So a lot of my reach outs, particularly if they're cold reach outs, are done with people like realtors and mortgage brokers, because they're working with residential clients. If I'm going for a commercial project, then I have a relationship that I've built and developed over time with a woman who is a salesperson within the commercial design sphere. And she passes me a ton of business on small scale commercial projects that her firm wouldn't take on, so I sort of have my salespeople out there that are sort of working with me, and
okay, wait, time out. Let me ask you something. So are we saying like a big commercial design firm in a major city has salespeople that are going out and trying to get bids and get projects from big property developers, and that they will ultimately run across X amount of projects that are too small for them to even bother to bid on? Is that what you just said?
Absolutely. And then I'm their referral.
Whoa. totally love that. I told you a moment ago that I've worked on this other side of that same business for many years and never thought about how those big commercial firms get these developers, and that they actually, I just, think, oh, okay, it just falls from the sky to them. No, they have salespeople, you're telling me, that they go out and they call on these big commercial builders. And if you could strike up a friendship and create a relationship with somebody, they are going to run into X amount of that's genius. I love it.
Yeah.
And that did that develop
force.
Yeah. So did that develop from your relationship, having worked in that one firm that you've partnered up with there? Is that how you met those people in that industry, those salespeople?
No, actually, this is a contact that so this is another really important aspect of sales and marketing. Actually, more sales. Marketing and sales are two totally different things. But I make it a point to go to networking events, and whether it's, whether it's just straight up networking with business people, or it could be a meetup group. It could be anything, something that I'm interested in, to networking with industry specific people such as architects and pool builders, or, whatever. So vendors of all sorts. Okay. Yeah. So I network, and then I find, and I network with other designers.
Right, because another designer might work at one of those big firms, and that even the designer isn't, okay. See,
it comes from anywhere.
Yeah. Well, and believe me, sales is my first love, and I get that. But related to this specific industry with interior design, I had never had anybody express that idea before of that being an avenue for leads. And I love it, because it's a win-win, because then you might come across something that's just way, way bigger a project than you even have a desire to do, and you can repay the favor by going back to them, or you figure other ways to make the relationship mutually beneficial. You can't be always on the receiving end, otherwise it gets a little not fun for them, right?
Well, I don't know about that, Luann. I think that it's like, if you're service oriented, meaning if you are in business or in your career, whatever it is, to help people, then, and that's kind of like your first and foremost motivation, then having a good referral, somebody that you can like really trust to get the job done right,
that's true.
It's going to be an excellent reflection on you, because you've made this great referral, and you wouldn't have been able to take on the project anyways.
Good for you. Great insight.
Yeah, then it is a win-win, and it's not like I'm taking, she's happy to pass it along and be a referral source.
And be the hero, be the person. You're so right about that, Kandi. I love that, because it is true. I mean, we have people that we call, they're the connectors. They're the people that are always connecting people. And a connector gets a lot of pleasure in knowing that they sent someone to somebody who is reliable and will be a good reflection of them. And that is a lot of pleasure derived from that. Good for you for noticing that. I love that. That's awesome. So that's a great thing. So you sit down and do you just do this in January, or do you do it every quarter, and you kind of just go through your, like you said, your spheres of influence and make your phone calls and reach out and set up, coffee chats or something?
Yeah, no, I'm like you. I do it every single week. But my point in that is that if I don't do my weekly sales activity, then it compounds over time into a monthly thing. And if I haven't done my monthly sales activity, then I'm going to be reaping the consequences of that in 2 to 3 months. Right.
Exactly.
So
right.
So it has to be a weekly discipline.
I love it. And do you actually have it calendared in, like me, it's a Friday? Do you have it calendared in a certain day each week that you do it?
I do it in the mornings. Okay. So I try to get into my office early, and where there's no distractions, and I just get on and I email, and if there's somebody that I feel like I'm going to get more traction with with a phone call, then I'll do that. But a lot of times people just want, texting or email, just like
You're not trying to
little touch point.
Yes, right. Exactly. Yeah. And so you have the staging and styling aspect of your business, and that's where your network of realtors comes in handy.
Yeah, and realtors, they just want to be helped. Again, they want their clients,
Yes.
they want to look good.
Yes.
That's a realtor. A realtor wants to look good in front of their
Yes.
clients. So it's our job to, and these are little projects, Luann. They're not money makers whatsoever. They're more like relationship builders. To where we can make a realtor look good, and then they're going to be referring us to their clients who are buying a house and want to renovate it.
Exactly. Well, I have a
Yeah.
stager here who is actually, that is her profession, is a stager. She has the warehouse, everything, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But she actually is morphed into becoming a decorator because she'll go and stage somebody. She's hired by the real estate company. She's hooked up with two very prominent realtors here in our area, and she gets practical. One realtor just includes the services in their project, and the other realtor includes the consultation they both include her consultation in the project, whether you as a consumer opt to hire her for the full out other than the consultation, blah, blah, blah. Right. But what happens is so many of the homes that she's done the staging for, then the homeowner moves on and hires her to design the new space. Right. And so it's the same thing. Yeah. So with the realtor too, they can see what staging you've done and now recommend you to a brand new client that they're selling a house to that they never did stage the house for. So
Yes.
okay.
It's all about relationships.
Yes,
Ultimately,
and
at the end of the day, that's it, right?
yeah, definitely. And a little of the nitty-gritty on developing the realtor relationships. We've had conversations on the show before. We've had Shauna Lynn Simon and Marianne Cherico. They're both stagers. They both talked about it. But they are they are professional stagers. That's the only thing they do. So talk a little bit about, from a designer who is doing design build, she's doing everything else. Is it, again, just starting to go to some meetings and networking events that you'll find realtors at and just organically making friendships and relationships, or was it more pointed than that? Give some advice there.
Well, what I did to develop relationships with realtors is they are one of the most accessible professionals online. I mean, you can get the contact information for a realtor by Googling your local real estate office, and there they all are. So I would just, send them emails and introduce myself. Hey, I just moved into the neighborhood. I'm offering this, and this services, and I would love to schedule a 10-minute conversation when you can,
Okay.
or shoot me an email back, and I can send you some more information. Realtors, they're always looking for stagers. I think that it's a very easy thing
Entree.
Very, very easy.
Well, and you throw a wide net, I'm sure. You don't call 3 and wait for 3 phone calls to ring. You email 23 and see what happens.
Exactly. And also just be prepared that it's not a huge moneymaker. It's an entrance.
Right.
And and to just treat it that way.
Right. But you have to have your systems locked down for it so that you can minimize what it costs you to do that. But again, it's staging. It's not, it's a whole, it has its own psychology, but it is less involved and less details. You have to have the right psychology and you have to know what you're going for. So I'm not negating the talent and the skill that you have to develop for that, but it's not like full on layering for a client's home that they're going to live in. But it does come down to don't spin your wheels, because it isn't a big money maker. So you have to get it streamlined so that you can come in and make that event worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I love
Absolutely.
it. I love it. I love it a lot. I think it's so cool because it just, even again, if you're a new designer starting out, or even you know what I always love? What if you're a designer and you've just taken a new position at a firm and you go to your principal and say, I noticed that we don't really have a network of realtors that we're working with here. Do you mind if I try and develop a network for us? What initiative would that be?
Oh my gosh.
Right? I'm going to go to some meetings around town. I'm going to go to some open houses. I'm going to send some emails out. And even if the point is you're going to set up the meetings for the principal, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you just totally love
that would
somebody?
Be an employee you do not let go.
Yes, right? It's the truth. It's so true. I think about that. One of my first sales positions that I had in the real world, because I had a lot of them, that was crazy. But one of the first ones I had was health club sales. And I remember I was probably, 18 or 19. I don't even know if I was 19 years old. I was 18 years old, and I went into work in a big health club. And I said back in the day, they had the index cards for all the members. Because we are going back to the Stone Ages for this conversation.
Gosh, remember that.
Right? And there was this big shelf over there, big bookcase over there with all the cards in these boxes. And I said, what is all that? And they're like, oh, they're all the members that have ever joined the club. And I said, oh, are they categorized some way? Yes, these are inactive members and these are active members, so that people come in, they can come in and they can sign that they were here and they can check off their exercise. And I said, and I looked at it and it had every single gym person's name, address, telephone number there, and how many times they were ever at the gym, the service that they buy 6 months, 1 year. Oh yeah. We are talking about like the late 70s. And I said, can I call these people? And I never forget, the manager looked at me. He's like, for what? I said, well, see if I can get them back in the club and renew their membership. I'm going to tell you what, in the first month I worked there, I was top salesperson in 1 month. It was like, boom. Wow. Because people, you know what, they needed to be heard. All I did was invite them back. I see you haven't been here in 6 months. Oh, it didn't work for me. It didn't? What happened? What was the problem? Oh, do you know we added this class now? That might solve the problem. I mean, I was like mana to that manager. They promoted me up it was what was so funny. What I learned the lesson was later when I was managing people, he promoted me up so high to management that I couldn't make the darn calls anymore because he gave me too many responsibilities. And I remember thinking, okay, you don't want to make yourself, you don't want to not promote somebody who's doing a good job, but you need to, keep them with the space, what they do well. What we say all the time on the show is, what do you do well? You know what I mean? Make sure I sell. What do I do well? Keep me selling. You don't move me up into managing where the janitor's coming to clean the pool out in the spa.
Yeah.
So funny. Oh my goodness. You have so much good information. I love it.
Thank you. Yes, it's been fun.
Yeah, no. So I honestly, I'm sure we could talk for another hour. We might have to have you back in a couple of months and take apart some of these other things.
I'd be delighted. Yeah.
No, because you know what? I love that your advice, a lot of it pertains to both seasoned and new, and it's tangible advice on how to work through things and how to be more profitable. One of the things, before I let you go, I want to mention to everybody that on Kandi's website, is it just mooddesignbuild.com, Kandi?
Yes.
Okay. Mooddesignbuild.com. One of your blog posts there, they should search it. It's called A Beautiful Space Starts Here. And then the subtitle is Customize Your Wish List. And I'm sharing this because there are 7 initial questions that Kandi has developed for developing a beautiful space. A beautiful space starts here. And then after those 7 questions, then there's 5 steps to start executing that making that space beautiful. And I'm sharing it because if you're new in design and you don't have this down pat yet, I actually thought that we might go through these 12 items, but I can see clearly now that we're not going to get a chance to. But I don't want it to go unnoticed because when I read this blog post, my first thought was that if I were brand new in the business and I was thinking about, I might be a little nervous about the initial consultation and what do I do and what do I say and how do I look at it, I thought this was a very well thought out, organized approach to creating a valuable content with a prospective client on being able to really discern what they need, what they want, and what is going to be a successful way to work with them. So I really want to encourage you guys to go over there. And then maybe in a couple of months, we will do that. Maybe we'll come on again, Kandi, and we'll go through the checklist and maybe the question list and figure out how you came to these questions as the ones that get you to the right answers.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
sounds great.
It really is awesome. And I can just, hear it that, what I love is, look, a lot of times I get a little Nazi on here and I'm like, just do it this way. It's how it works, but I am the same as you. I know it because of what didn't work, because all the things I did 100 years ago that didn't work.
Yeah.
Everything.
The hard knocks place.
Exactly. Right. It's the truth. I mean, we all learn by experience, and the hope with the podcast is that you can hear some of us that have been through it and maybe take the lesson and, do a shortcut and just say, okay, don't do it that way.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely.
Very good. So you are in the Chicago area. Are you going to High Point or anything this October? If any of the listeners would love to reach out and meet up with you.
Oh, I would love to do that. I don't have solid plans yet, but it could be a possibility. But
Okay.
I would love to hear from anyone and everyone who has comments and wants some more information. Happy to.
Yeah, no, I think you're a valuable resource. You can hear that you have really come to an organized approach to running your business, and I like it. So,
Thank you.
all righty. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kandi.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, title of the show is perfect, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Practical advice to launch, grow, and sustain your interior design firm, right? I mean, Kandi I told you she was going to hit it out of the park, and she did. She has really built on all of the experiences that she's had in the industry over these last 15 years and leveraged them to run a profitable and productive business. Her experience and contacts from the commercial design field that she maintains and she gets leads from, things for them, like she said, projects that are too small for the big firms that are perfect for her firm. I also love that she reaches out and she assists realtors with their staging. This gets her foot in the door for when that client, then moves on and purchases a home. She's built some sort of a relationship with them, and that's a good idea. I love that. And I love that she relies on her early retail experience as well as her training in social and emotional intelligence to remember that customer service mostly involves making sure your clients know that you see and hear them, right? You see and hear their fears, their concerns, and their objectives. This is critical. It's like she said, everybody is wanting to make sure that they feel safe, that most things, most strife, most challenges, most icky situations come from somebody being afraid. So if you can be the one in the room that is the voice of reason, the voice of calm, it's really going to help you propel your interior design firm. And that goes with your dealings with your clients, your employees, and your vendors, okay? Now, my favorite line of the entire show was by Kandi: principal designers are salespeople. That's right. I didn't even tell her to say it. I mean, I'm a broken record on this. You are the best advocate for your company, and it is your number one responsibility so that you keep your pipeline full. There is no point in being a talented interior designer if no one ever sees your designs. And the only way they're going to see your designs is if you sell yourself. Okay? It takes just as she and I do. It's weekly phone calls and follow-ups. You have to do these things. There's tons of other things you have to do. But and these are not things you pass along to other people in your firm. You are the salesperson. All right? Great advice. I love it. And speaking of being the salesperson for your firm, if you struggle with this, if you have a hard time because you either don't know how to do it or you know how, but you find it hard to ask or to go for the sale, the close, right? You might know you need to do it. You might know you're supposed to do it, but maybe you struggle with the mechanics of it or you struggle with steps leading up to it. I'm just going to say I announced it just last Thursday on episode 225 that I am launching a coaching session called Money, Mindset, and Sales. And I am doing this with Nancy Ganskaufer. We are co-coaching a 10-week live training on money, mindset, and sales. Okay. If you remember Nancy Ganskaufer, she is the business coach and strategist. Her company is called Your Business Partner. All right. Together, we are going to help you unlock the blocks that you have about money and mindset, and we are going to teach you the steps to profitable high-ticket selling. All right? I explained all these details in last week's episode, number 225. The course starts in a week and a half on Wednesday, September 13th, 2017. I'm going to tell you right now, the spots are limited because part of what we're doing, in addition to the 10 live coaching sessions, is we are providing each of us, me and Nancy, are each providing a one-on-one private 50-minute coaching session with every attendee. Okay, so for this reason, the number of people that we are having in this program is limited. Okay, if you want more information, you can go to www.windowworks-nj.com/breakthrough. So that's www.windowworks-nj.com/breakthrough. www.nbsp.com/breakthrough. Okay. 10-week live coaching with me and Nancy, money, mindset, and sales. I'm really looking forward to having you join us. One more thing before I go, I want to give a big thank you to Jill Pulver, Raspberry, and Girl Needs Mobile for your iTunes reviews. Thank you so much. I know this is tedious to do, and it's so exciting each week for me to see another review, and I do appreciate it. If you have not reviewed the show yet and you would do it for me, I would be very grateful. And if you would share the show with a buddy, either through social media, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, or just email a link to a friend, a designer who might be struggling in their business or is needing some help, I'd be so grateful. All righty, that's it for today. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.